Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, WeChat, the super app, how to engage digitally in China. My name is Dexter, and I'll be your host in this webinar. This webinar is organized by Crayfish.io together with GMCC, Greater Manchester Chamber of Commerce. We have Amy from GMCC on the line with us. She will do a brief introduction of GMCC later at the end of this webinar to those of you developing businesses in Manchester area. Before I hand the mic over to Jiao, I have a few housekeeping items to cover about this presentation. This presentation will be around 40 minutes and there will be a 5 minutes Q&A. Today's webinar will be available after the live session. Yes, I see a questions in the comment section saying that if this is recorded. Yes, the answer is yes. It's recorded and we'll send the link to you tomorrow. And it will be published on our YouTube channel as well, which the video link will be sent to you again through email tomorrow. Also, we would love to hear from you during today's presentation. If you have questions for our speaker, Jiao Li, please feel free to send it through the Q&A tab, which you can see on the panel at the bottom of your screen. We will be answering questions at the end of the session. If we don't get to your questions during today's webinar, we will be sure to follow up afterwards. No worries. And last, feel free to share today's webinar with your friends, your business partners, and your social networks. And if you enjoy this webinar very much, you can share your thoughts on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Well, remember to tag us and give us a shout. So without any further ado, I'd like to kick things off by welcoming our speaker, Jiao Li. Jiao, over to you.
Thanks very much, Dexter. Hi, everyone. Good morning for the ones who are based in the UK, and good afternoon to those who are actually in China. So I will start today's webinar with a brief introduction of myself. I am the co-founder of Crayfish and in charge of product development and also marketing for Crayfish.io. I am an e-commerce and digital marketing professional. I spent my previous career in a multinational company, Unilever, doing mainly e-commerce and digital marketing. Then I moved as the co-founder of Crayfish, in which I helped a lot of companies and a lot of brands, be it B2B or B2C, to build their digital marketing strategy, especially on the app that we are going to talk about today, the WeChat. So to start with, before we dive into the details of WeChat, I would like everyone to sit back and have a look at China digital landscape altogether. As everyone knows that China has built the famous firewall. Because of the existence of the firewall, the internet world is different on the other side. For everything that we have here, so for example, for search, we have Google. For social network, we have Facebook. For video, we have YouTube, eBay, Amazon, Twitter. All this don't exist in China. In China, we have all the equivalence apps for this and websites for this as well. So for example, for Google, we have Baidu. For Facebook, we have WeChat. For YouTube, we have Youku. So when you go to China, when you are trying to do business with China, bear in mind, your consumers or your customers are living in a completely different world. The apps, somehow they started similar as the Western apps. For some of the apps, they actually evolved into a different mutant creature. So for today, I'm going to talk about the most important app and the super app in China, which is WeChat. And social media in China has been dominated by two platforms, mainly Weibo and WeChat. In recent years, in the last 2 years, there are more social apps booming, mainly focusing on short video ones, including Kuaishou and Douyin. Douyin, which is called TikTok here, is also very popular and successful here in the West. Xiaohongshu, as you can see here, is actually a social app for people to share their views and their purchase behaviors on mainly e-commerce purchases, and also on the famous restaurants and basically the lifestyle app. And Weibo is more like a Twitter style, so it's like a broadcasting app, which is more open and it's one-to-many, and people can discover over one topic, and you can use hashtag as what you use here in Twitter. However, WeChat is a little bit different compared to what we call Facebook and WhatsApp here. And it is a very much closed circle network tool. So it's very intimate, it's one-to-one. You can't actually use hashtag. People can find you through various ways, which we will talk later. But instead of broadcasting tool, it's firstly started as a communication app, and now it evolves into a super app which combines almost covers every perspective of your life. If you look at the data on the right-hand side here for WeChat, the monthly average active user is 1.1 billion almost. And another data to back this one up is the smartphone owners in China is around 1 billion. So the WeChat user is actually bigger than the smartphone owner. First reason is because there are some overseas countries which are using WeChat, but not a lot, only 70 million people. The rest of the number is because a lot of people have 2 WeChats or even 3 WeChat accounts. Firstly, because WeChat will only allow you to add 5,000 contacts. So when I first saw this, I was thinking, how is it possible for anyone to have more than 5,000 contacts? But I think in this year's WeChat annual conference, Alan Zhang, who is the creator of WeChat, they said they are going to actually enlarge number of contacts of one account because, surprise, surprise, there are already 1 million people on WeChat who has more than 5,000 contacts. So maybe you are one of those very popular people there. But as you can see, the impact is almost everyone in China has a WeChat account. So if you are a consumer goods products, definitely it's a great way to reach out to your audiences. And even if you are B2B company, WeChat is also a great tool to keep your relationship going, not only just with your current customers, but also with your potential clients. A little bit about WeChat, as I just mentioned. It's a multi-purpose messaging, social media, and payment app. In Chinese, it's called Weixin. The literal meaning is macro message. It was introduced by Tencent in 2011, which is also the owner of QQ. It's still another dominant app in China on social media. So as I said, WeChat has been described as China's apps for everything and the super app, not just because of how many people are using it, but also because of its wide range of functions. Another reason that I would like to talk about WeChat today is how sticky this app is. So when Alan Zhang firstly introduced WeChat to the big world, he said, I wanted to develop an app that people can just use and people can just go. So it's so light that people don't have to do a lot of actions in it. It's just very convenient. However, now it becomes an app that you can never get out of. So if you look at a typical day of a person using social apps, Chinese users spend more than 1/3 of their smartphone time on WeChat. The average daily usage of WeChat is around 80 minutes, and there are even 40% of users who are using WeChat for more than 4 hours per day. One is the heaviest usage time. It's usually when you get up, people tend to check WeChat and see if there are messages from yesterday, or they check news on WeChat as well. Especially for companies like us who are doing business for cross borders, it's very likely that I wake up with a phone with 100 unread messages because when I am asleep in China, people will start working, so they are actually trying to keep in touch with me while I'm asleep. And when they're traveling to work, they are still using WeChat. And because of the existence of the desktop version, every Chinese company use it where they are at work as well. When they have lunch break, they are still using it. Traveling home, they are still using it. And about to sleep, people tend to go to WeChat and see what's happening there, read the news, read the contents pushed through their WeChat accounts, and then they go to sleep. So just you can tell how much addicted that a Chinese consumer or Chinese customer will be to this app. So as I just mentioned, WeChat's monthly active users have now existed 1.1 billion, and the number of monthly active WeChat users from 2011 to 2019 is still growing. So why is it so popular? And as a foreign company or as a foreigner, how can you use it to benefit your business and also your contact? I'm going to talk about mainly today on 3 things. I'll try to touch a little bit on everything. But if any of you have questions or are interested in one particular topic, please let me know. So I'm going to talk about WeChat personal account first, and then official accounts, then a little bit on the mini program. At the end of this presentation, I'm also going to talk about the WeChat's role during this special moment, the coronavirus situation. So let's start. Why we call it the super app? There are almost there's 6 functions that are used in WeChat. The first one is definitely chat. So it's a messaging app, and it's a social media where you can share your updates, photos, and or even your real-time locations. And wallet, people are actually using WeChat Pay to do almost a lot of their work and a lot of their payment today. And third-party services, including, you can ride a bike, hiring a shareable bike on it, and you can use Uber on it, Uber equivalent on it, and you can do online shopping. And also, WeChat is very popular because of the public services. You can book doctors, you can apply for visas, pay for utility bills, almost everything. So for personal WeChat account, firstly, it was started, as I mentioned, as a messaging app. A very unique function, why it got popular to start with, is because of the voice chat, where you can leave a voice message and people can use it, people can listen to it later. I think this function is already copied by WhatsApp. And you can look at the second one, which is a very unique WeChat function. It's called sticker gallery. If you have a WeChat on your phone now, you can actually go to discover and find this very cute and whimsical thing in China. So a lot of Chinese people use this to express their feelings during their chat, to be more expressive than the word, which I will talk about later. And last one, which is also a very important one, is the group chat. So I'm going to talk through each of them. So firstly, on the WeChat groups, 90% of people use WeChat to work. So if you look at on the left-hand side, the reasons to join a group chat of more than 100 people, either it's corporate internal communications or professional networkings. So these are the 2 major reasons of why people join a group chat. One, Chinese people adapted to the concept of networking. We adapted to a very digital way. So there are millions of groups out there, mainly probably focusing on different industries or focusing on different industrial topics. And there are a lot of experts in it. Those can be your targeted audience organically if you want to go there and you want to meet people and networking with them. So if you have a friend who is from the similar industry in China, ask them if they have group chats that they can invite you into that. In that group chat, you can publish your product information, you can ask for help, you can even help people from there. So on the right-hand side is just one group that I am in, which is British entrepreneurs in Beijing. As you can see, people are actually trying to help through that WeChat group. Another very interesting feature of WeChat groups is highly related to Chinese culture. So when it comes to the Chinese way of communication, hierarchy is very important. So for one single project, it's very easy to form, let's say, 5 to 6 different project groups. It's not just because of different functions, also because of different levels. For example, if you are the CEO on the UK side, there will be a group with you and the CEO on the other side. So this is a group for, let's say, formal information. But for your operational level people, they will highly likely have another group with the counterpart in China, which is also operational level, in which they can communicate very effectively for operational matter. So this is another very smart way of using WeChat groups. Also, it's a very quicker way for you to even reach out to the senior people in the organization. As I mentioned, why so? Is because a lot of people now, especially senior level people, they delegate their emails or even their phone numbers to their assistants or to their secretaries. However, because WeChat is a combination of personal contacts and also work contacts, it will highly likely be controlled by the person, the senior person itself. So if you have the contact of your counterpart in China and the senior contact in China, it's very easy for you to reach out to the senior level directly. And it's also a messaging app. You can easily edit the photo in it. On the right-hand side is just one quick example. And also for people who would like to understand a little bit Chinese or talk to Chinese side, if they send you Chinese people, WeChat has an embedded translation, automatic translation service where you can tap on the message and you can see the translator button there. And then you can just do the automatic translation. I have to say, sometimes it's surprisingly to find how accurate it is. But this is just for a quick understanding. If you really want to have a proper conversation with them, I would still strongly recommend that you have a proper translator with you, or you have like a freelancer translator with you who can help with your translation. Okay, the fun part, the sticker gallery. Stickers, as I mentioned, are an essential part of communication in China. It used to express emotions. Many users in China feel that emojis just can't convey the same level of emotions. So it's very, as I mentioned, it's very expressive and engaging. It's a very smart way for a brand to use, for example, their mascara, or for a brand to use their logo to actually create stickers for the fans to use. But I think this is more recommended for well-known brand, and especially the brands with, let's say, high affinity, and also consumer brands. We talk this again. Okay, another thing on WeChat is the social network, as I mentioned. For everyone who has WeChat, if you click on Discover, you will see the WeChat moment, which is like the Facebook posts where you can share your photos, share short videos, share your feelings with your followers, with your groups, with your friends. Here I used an example of one type of WeChat advertisement. On the left-hand side is BMW, on the right-hand side is Coca-Cola. I think this was introduced in 2015 by WeChat to have, as they say, organic advertisement in your moment. So this will appear in your friend's feed directly and disguised as, BMW is your friend. But this is not the cheapest way to do advertisement in China, which I will talk about this later as well. WeChat Moment is a very useful tool for you to organically promote what's happening in your company and keep a close relationship with the contacts that you would like to. And another thing is top stories, which had introduced in 2018, actually 2019. It's called Top Stories and 看一看. So before, as I mentioned, if you have a WeChat account, there are different ways for users to find it. You can send it to different groups, as I mentioned, so people in that group can see it, or people can search for your account or search for your article in WeChat. They can find it, or you can use QR code offline for people to scan it and find your account. Top Stories actually offered a new way for people to find your account. How does it work? If you open one of the posts, WeChat post or article that you are interested in, and you scroll down to the end, on the left-hand side, you will see read more to go to the original link of the article or whatever action that this article tries to persuade you to do. On the right-hand side, you will see a button called Wow. So if you like this article, then you can click on that button. It will appear in your friends' top stories. So as on the right-hand side, you will see after you click on top stories, this is on the discover button, by the way, if you click on that, you can see these are all my friends who actually, all the contents that my friends liked recently. And I can browse this and see, oh, okay, actually people are interested, my friends are interested in this type of article and in this type of news. And on the right-hand side, you can also see a different tab called Top, which is the most popular WeChat contents recently. So this is a way for WeChat to give us another entry point of the WeChat, of your WeChat accounts. Bear in mind, I couldn't emphasize this more. WeChat is very close circle, so it's very challenging. It can be very challenging for you to find proper followers. So you need to know all the entry points that's possible to your accounts and plan accordingly. Another new function that was introduced this January, so 2020, is channels. As I mentioned in the introduction part, short video is very, very popular in China. In short video, in 2018 only, the transaction value was already $115 billion, a transaction there. And there are already a lot of people using this short video as the format of social media and to promoting the brand. This is WeChat way of tapping into short videos. Alan Zhang, so the creator of WeChat, he hosts WeChat annual conference yearly, and in this year's conference in January, he mentioned that one of his regrets is for WeChat accounts to only allow people to post articles, or articles become the most popular function there. It actually limits the creation possibility for all the users, because a lot of people don't like to write or don't have time to write such a long article. But for everyone like us, it's very easy for us just to take a video and post. So I think this is a way of WeChat showing that we are actually embracing the new opportunity of the short video. So this short video now can allow you to find all the different accounts and to see, to follow the popular ones working just like TikTok and Douyin, although it's still in the testing phase. So not all the accounts will have the access to channels, and there are still a lot of functionalities need to be done. For example, you can't actually click through and see all the videos on the same billboard, but I believe that they're still developing it. And if your brand is very active and have a lot of video content, this is definitely a channel that you should watch out for. And another very important function is WeChat Pay and e-commerce. I don't know how many of you have been to China not recently, in 2019 probably, and even in 2017. You will say that people are carrying less cash now in China. on the left-hand side, you could see this is one of our partners in China who is actually a creative agency, but they managed to open their e-commerce store to sell, their own branded goods, which is very interesting. And WeChat Pay actually allows consumers to pay directly through their phone. This becomes very popular as well because of the QR code enabled. The QR code function enabled by WeChat. It's very convenient for us to just scan and to pay. As you can see here, 70% of smartphone users in China use the phone to pay for goods and services at the POS in 2017 already. I think nowadays the number can go very high. There are three dominant players, which is Alipay, WeChat Wallet, and UnionPay. And as I mentioned, it's very, very intuitive now for Chinese people. We are trained to scan a QR code to pay. And this pay function can also act as a very active entry point for your WeChat account if you are a consumer product. Okay, that's that's enough about the personal account. Now I'm going to talk about the official account. There are actually three types of official account: service account, subscription account, and enterprise account. Enterprise account is mainly for company's internal management. So I'm going to leave it on that for now. We are going to focus on service account and subscription account. The key differences between service account and subscription account are subscription accounts are less visible and can send one message per day. So if you look at the left-hand side, the service account, the Burberry one, is actually appearing in your chat flow directly, where the subscription account can only be in the subscription accounts folder. So it's only when you click on subscription accounts folder, people are able to see your accounts there. And this is actually the old way of showing the accounts. Now it's becoming an article-based into the subscription account. So when you click through it, instead of you can see 10 of your subscription accounts on one screen, not currently you can only see 2 articles because it actually appears in a information flow type of information now. So that means your account, if you publish in the wrong time or not a very good timing, your content will be pushed really down, and consumers or your followers can only see the top accounts. However, service accounts are more visible because it appears in your chat flow directly, but it can only send 4 messages per month. Subscription accounts, therefore, is more for content-driven businesses. If you have enough to say and if you have really attractive content, you can go for subscription accounts. Service accounts are more for companies aiming at providing a set of services, not just only publishing content. It gives you more functions and it has better visibility. And in my opinion, 4 articles per day for a normal company account should be good enough. There are, of course, other differences. However, I wouldn't touch it today. If anyone is interested, please email us. Now, how to register an overseas account? 3 years ago, there is only one way to do it, which is through the registration with a Chinese third party. How it works is you are actually borrowing the third-party license, which is registered in China. So you are actually using their company name. However, you can still have the account name. We wouldn't recommend brands to do this because it's really high risk. There are 2 reasons why it's high risk. The first one is you can't control what's happening to that third-party account. Let's say if the company goes bankrupt, it's very difficult for you to get your account back. And also, one company can only have 2 accounts now, so it's very difficult for you to find a company who is willing to lend you their license without a fortune. And the other reason of high risk is it's not possible to migrate your followers from domestic account to an overseas account. So for example, if you accumulated already 2,000, 3,000 followers in the domestic account, and you are thinking that it's a good time for me now to move to the overseas account, no, it's very difficult for you to do that, and almost impossible, because it requires both accounts owner to be at the same, and then you need to exchange contracts, so it's too much trouble to go through. However, WeChat provides another very good way for overseas company to register. You can now register an overseas account. Firstly, it's owned by the company directly, and it's verified, have more functions. Why is it important to have a verified account? Is because verification in China means a lot. Means authority, means that you are authentic, especially when Chinese consumers are very suspicious with new brands. So it's very important to be verified. However, this is service account only for now. So if you register an overseas account, you can only register for service account. I won't touch too much on the basic account management for now because of the timing. However, I would like to touch upon two things here. The first one is the welcome message and auto reply. It's actually a very smart way to use your account as the entry point. The first thing you can do once you have set up your WeChat admin platform is to set up a welcome message for your new followers. And also it provides another function, which is keyword auto reply. It's also a very smart way to engage with your phone. Each keyword triggers a specific message, which allows you to personalize your interactions with your fans. It's also a very helpful feature for your subscribers who want to find out more info on specific aspects of your business. Also, WeChat gives you content posting functions, that's for sure, and data statistics analysis. Another important function here is user management, which is also a very useful tool for you to use if you would like to have more CRM or more detailed management of your followers. The WeChat admin platform allows you to manage your users by setting groups for them. You can get from your users the name remarks, the user profile, follower list, user locations, network status. This will help you better categorize your followers and target them accordingly in the future. Once you have your account ready and once you have it set up, it's very important for you to understand how to grow your followers. Easier said than done, that the most important thing is to have shareable content. We have a client which is in publishing industry. We have been managing their WeChat account for the past 1.5 years. Their views are quite stable, I would say. However, one day we saw one article with a lot of views, a lot of more views than they usually achieved. So we dig into it and found out why it got so popular. So the content is a how-to post about the newest scientific method, and this content got picked up by one of the major influencers in the industry, and then he retweeted, reposted this content through his own social media. Then suddenly it helped us to attract a lot of followers. So getting the shareable content is a key. And you can also grow your followers online and offline. For online, as I just mentioned, you can encourage everyone of your company to share it through WeChat moments, through their top stories, and through the WeChat groups. And create your own community, do your own group, and asking them to share into their social medias. So this is let's say seed users. And you can also do SEO on WeChat. And if you have Weibo or other platforms, or even your website, you can get the traffic from there to your WeChat account. By doing this, I would say you will likely to have your first 200, 300 followers. And then you can do cross promotion with KOLs, key opinion leaders, or different brands that will work with you together. And offline wise, use QR code smartly. As I mentioned, Chinese people already are trained to use QR code. When we see a QR code, the first reaction for us is to scan it. So it's very important for you to know that how you use your QR code. If you are going to a conference, print it out, put it on your stand, and asking people to scan it. Also, you can do this through paid media. As I mentioned, WeChat paid media, especially the moment ad, is not as cheap as a lot of other media advertisement format. Their CPM, I think, is around 40 RMB at least, where the other format, let's say Baidu, is around 1 RMB maximum. So be really careful when you actually do your paid media plan. So another very important function that you should bear in mind is search. If you understand how it works in China in terms of the digital landscape, the digital world is mainly dominated by 3 big giant companies. One is Tencent, who creates WeChat. The other one is Alibaba, and the third one is Baidu. All of them compete in a way that they are building their internal walls to ban others' content. So for example, on Baidu, you can't actually search for contents in WeChat, and Taobao's content is not very easily shared in WeChat. However, if you search on WeChat, WeChat is actually allowing a lot of different apps to be included. It includes Sogo and JD, Zhihu, which is a knowledge sharing platform. Of course, if you have public accounts, WeChat will preferably put it on top, and also mini program, which I'm going to talk about later. WeChat put a lot of effort on promoting this search function starting from 2018. So be really smart with your search strategy if you are running a social media account, especially a WeChat public account that publishes content. Okay, so WeChat mini program. I did this screenshot 1 year ago. By then, there was only 1 million mini programs by the end of 2018. I checked yesterday, there are already 2 million mini programs now, and there are more than 700 million users now who are using the mini program. So what is mini program? Mini program essentially is an app within WeChat that you don't have to download. I would say if I was Apple or Google, I would be worried because it's so easy to use, it's so light that people can just search for it, or people can just forward the app to another. So it includes now transportation, games, e-commerce, news, everything. So if you look at the data, the most popular apps in 2018, the first one is games. So the blue bar meaning the number of visitors, and the green bar is the number of mini programs. So you can see games and e-commerce are dominating, and then followed by content and tools. This is mainly consumer-facing WeChat mini programs. However, I have seen more and more B2B companies smartly using mini programs as a CRM tool or as a company broadcasting tool to attract more potential clients. So this just to go through several ideas with you how this will play out. As I mentioned, there's no need to install before usage. So a lot of brands are actually very embracing this new trend to create campaigns or even to move part of their original app function to this light app. And also it can encourage users to socialize with others. For example, Starbucks are offering seasonal gifting cards for you to send to your friends through this. And also, if you have offline stores, it's a very useful tool for you to connect online to offline. And hopefully this is enough information for you to understand basically what WeChat is about. So here I'm going to talk about the WeChat during coronavirus outbreak. I have to say, I think WeChat acted as a very vital role on supporting the battle with the virus. Because of the existence of WeChat, the information is much more transparent, and it's much more easier for people to access to the useful information. And Tencent created mini program of updates. So if you click on WeChat Pay now, you will see a health button. If you click on it, you can get all the current situation update, and you can even visit book a doctor online to ask them check for you virtually if you are affected. And you can also do self-checking to see if any people around you or any regions around you are affected by this virus. Also because of the quarantine time that Chinese people had to spend more than 14 days within their home. Even now in China, I think, especially in Shanghai, 50% of the business are already back to normal. A lot of companies, a lot of employees are still working from home. So that means people are spending more time on WeChat, and they are doing much more activities on WeChat. Remember the enterprise account that I just mentioned? The enterprise account, which is a tool help you to manage internally. The enterprise activities have exploded. The download number has been amazing because of this. And brands are also using WeChat to keep connections with their consumers and their connections. You can see Starbucks actually posting a lot of posts to keep saying that we are going to be back. We welcome you back to the store once we're open, to keep them warm. And on the right-hand side, 2 images is one account, what they initiated to do in Shanghai in 8 different shopping malls. They actually put out a stand to encourage people to put free stuff on it, because what are these for? These free stuff are for delivery boys, as you can see from the right. They are the ones who actually kept the cities alive, and this is just a way to show our appreciation. And this campaign actually received millions of likes in China, and this is just how people are actually using WeChat as a tool to encourage people to contribute, and to what they can do is just to scan a QR code, and they can just get a bag of free lunch, which is very, very, very good. So if you are already doing business with China, even within this special period of time, as you can see, China is still trying to keep up, not just through fighting with the virus directly, but all the brands, all the people there are trying to stay together, trying to connect with the world, and trying to keep the things going, especially the business side there, through the technology like WeChat. So I think that's all from me for today. Yeah, so now I already seen a lot of questions popping up, but if you still, we are still giving you 2 more minutes to ask more questions, where we can pick up some to answer later. So before we take the questions, I'm going to do a quick introduction of Crayfish. What we are a full service provider for better engagement with China, powered by technology. We offer 3 different sets of services. The first one is expertise. So basically everything that you can think of doing business with China, be it market insights, translation, or set up your WeChat account, we can help with that. And for connections, we do partner introduction, government relationship, and also we do training. So I am thinking to do, let's say, a 2 hours virtual WeChat training, touching on more essential topics, like how to write more shareable content, how to manage your WeChat account, how to keep up with the current situation. I was thinking of doing that. If you are interested, we are having a survey at the end. If you show interest in that, when I have that designed, I will keep you updated. Also, we have a Crayfish Accelerator program, which is more on capital side, which will help companies to get money to get investment from Chinese investors. And we deliver these services through 3 different ways. We have an online marketplace which you can register as a client and post your projects there. And we have more than 1,000 freelancers and providers who can come and help you directly. We also have fixed price packages. For example, you can directly set up WeChat account there from the fixed cost service. And we also offer tailor service if you have bigger or more complex project. Now I'm going to hand over to Amy for a quick introduction of GMCC. Hi, Amy, are you there?
Hi everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and thanks to Jiao and Dexter for a really interesting webinar today. I am the Trade Operations Manager at Greater Manchester Chamber of Commerce. For those of you who don't know, we are the largest Chamber of Commerce in the UK. We work with around 4,500 companies, and around 2,000 of those companies trading internationally each year. We offer a range of international trade support, as you can see on the screen. I'm not going to go through everything today, but we can help companies export and import all the way from the start of their international journey through to the documentation side. And we can also now help companies bringing goods into the UK and sending goods out of the UK, completing all the customs paperwork side. We do offer a range of market entry and research services through partners such as Crayfish, covering around 90 countries, as well as some more technical training aspects, which there's some grants available for as well if anybody's interested at the minute. Following the webinar, Crayfish are going to send around our exclusive member offer we have for any members that are interested in Crayfish's support, and also links to our newsletter so you can all keep up to date with the latest events that are going on in the region and also the latest business opportunities. Yeah, that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amy, for the introduction. So now it's time for the Q&A. If you'd like to ask questions, please use the Q&A feature in the control panel on your screen now. And actually, I can see a lot of questions on the panel already. Now I'm scrolling down. I'm looking for the most interesting question. Okay, so Jiao, the first question is here. How often, this is about the WeChat, how often should I post and when should I post an article on WeChat?
That's a really good question. How often should you post? I think this depends on, firstly, if you have good enough content to say. Don't say it if you don't have good enough content. I would always say to people who are trying to do WeChat properly, thinking that no one is going to read your article. So only say it when it's important, and if you are struggling to say if I'm going to post or not, I wouldn't say it's the right time for you to post. Really provide useful information. I would say if for a proper brand to consumers or brand to B2B brand, I would say at least 2 posts per month to keep it active. And in terms of when should you post, I have 2 different conflicting theories. The first one is you should post on when people are actually looking, which is, I just mentioned, in the morning, during lunch, after work, and really in the midday and also in the midnight. However, though a lot of accounts are aware of the pattern, so that means you're actually competing with a lot of accounts. So currently I have seen a new trend of people actually trying to post when no one is posting. For example, we have tried to post on Sunday morning, and it actually proves to be it's working. So I wouldn't say there is a clear rule of when and how often should you post. You really should know your audience and your content well, so that you do different tests, and then you can maybe find a pattern that you should stick to.
Thank you so much, Jiao. That's a brilliant answer. Okay, and the last questions, because due to the time limit, we can only answer 2 questions on the spot, sorry. So the last question is, how can B2B companies do marketing through WeChat?
Another very interesting question. I've actually got asked this question a lot by my B2B customers. So in their minds, WeChat account or WeChat marketing is more for consumers. However, I completely disagree. So if you think about your buyers, if you think your companies as your counterparts there, especially when you are doing BD and also marketing, more on BD side, all your counterparts in China are using WeChat. So you can think them as your consumer, even that you need to keep them warm. You need to give them your brand exposure. So it's even more so that a B2B company needs to use WeChat, because as a B2B company, you can't actually use a lot of the traditional media tools. Like you can't actually, as a small brand, you can't actually rent a bus and paint it all over your brand. So to build awareness, especially WeChat has, WeChat group with all the experts and WeChat search, which is also very useful. And also, as I mentioned, a lot of B2B companies start to use mini program to build their own content, to build their own apps. These are the exciting tools that you can leverage when you try to build your B2B brand, and also to keep in close touch with your clients. We will help different brands to build their own mini programs, B2B mini programs, which is proved to be very popular among their Chinese customers. Hope that answers a little. To be honest, that deserves another session.
Yes, thank you so much, Jiao. That's really helpful. So thank you to everyone who joined us for today's webinar. I know there are still a lot of questions that are not answered yet, but be sure we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Just give us some time. Within these 2 days, we'll receive an email from me with Jiao's answer to your questions. So also, we have another webinar coming up, and the speaker is our founder and CEO, Ting Zhang, talking about prepare now for the post-coronavirus boom in the Chinese market. So if you're interested, be sure to sign up for this webinar as well. And the link will be sent to you tomorrow together with the recorded version of this webinar to your inbox. So if you have any additional questions, or you would like to connect directly with me and the Crayfish team or Jiao, you can either reach out directly using the contact information on this slide, or you can reach out to us via our social medias, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And also the last thing before we go, there will be a survey that will pop up after this slide, after I close this meeting. So please answer the survey so that we know what you prefer and what kind of topics you are interested in. So I think that's all. Thank you for your time, and I hope to see you in our next webinar. Thank you. Bye-bye.